Hey guys, welcome to yet another interesting session by Intellipaat. We'll start off by understanding what is Java and look at its execution flow. Then we'll look at variables and data types and implement them in Java. Following which, we'll look at various types of operators in Java. Further, we'll understand the necessity of control statements. And finally, we'll go through the concept of arrays and classes. So what is Java? It's an object-oriented programming language. So what in the world is object-oriented programming? Now, when you look around, what do you see? What are you surrounded by? You're surrounded by objects, aren't you? Everything around you is an object. The phone that you use is an object. The car that you drive is an object, and the football that you kick is also an object. So, an object-oriented programming language helps you represent these real-world entities in the programming world. Java is also a platform-independent programming language. That is, you can run the same code on any device irrespective of the operating system. So let's say you have developed your code on a Windows machine, but your client only has a Mac. So you don't need to worry at all. You can be 300% sure that your code will successfully run on your client's machine. Java is a multi-threaded programming language. That is, you can run multiple threads at the same time. So let me give an example to understand this better. Let's say you're playing the game FIFA on your computer, and there are multiple things happening at the same time. There is one thread which plays the background commentary while you're playing the game. A second thread is responsible for moving your player forward. There's a third thread running in the background which moves the opponent's players. And the interesting part is all these threads are running concurrently, and this is nothing but an implementation of multi-threading. Now let's go ahead and look at Java components. So now that you know what Java is, the question lingering in your mind would be, how do I develop Java programs? So the solution to that is Java Development Kit. JDK basically includes two things: development tools to build your Java program and Java runtime environment to execute the developed program. Now it needs to be understood that JRE is an installation package which provides environment only to run Java programs. So you cannot develop a Java program with just JRE. So it is for the end users who only want to run the Java applications. Then we have JVM, which is a part of JRE. This Java virtual machine is responsible for executing a Java program line by line. That is, JVM actually acts as the interpreter. Now let's understand the execution flow in Java. Whenever we create a new Java program, we save it as a .java file. This .java file is then passed to the Java compiler, which compiles it and gives us the .class file. Now what is so important about this .class file? Well, this .class file is important to us because it contains bytecode. Now you might ask, what is so special about bytecode? So bytecode is special because it is not platform specific. Or in other words, bytecode is what makes Java a platform independent language. So now that we have the .class file with us, we need to load it from the disk or send it over the network to execute it. So we already know that to execute a Java program, we need JRE. So let's have a closer look at the execution flow in JRE. Once the .class file is transferred over the network, the class loader loads all the necessary classes needed for the execution of the program. Then JVM puts the code through the bytecode verifier that checks the format of the code and also checks for any illegal code. So illegal code is basically any code that violates access rights on objects or violates the implementation of pointers. Then finally, the interpreter executes the bytecode, converts it into appropriate machine code, and makes calls to the underlying hardware. So we've understood the components of JDK and looked at the Java execution flow. Now we'll go ahead and understand variables in Java. So simply put, a variable is a temporary storage space. Over here, this basket is a temporary storage space which can hold only one object at a time. We have an apple with us and we place it inside this basket. After some time, we decide to remove this apple and replace it with an orange. Again, after some time, we replace this orange with a banana because bananas are the best, aren't they? And this is pretty much how variables work. These hold temporary values which can be changed again and again. Now, every variable is associated with a data type. So let's look at the different types of data a variable can store. First in the list is integer data type. A variable can hold integer values like 5, 10,000 and -300. You can also store floating point numbers like 3.14 and -12.12. Java also permits you to store individual characters like A, X and I. Then there are Boolean values as well, such as true and false. Now we'll go ahead and implement all of these in Java. So this is Eclipse, guys. So this is an IDE to implement all of your Java programs. So first step would be to create a Java project. So let's create a new Java project. I'll name this as Intellipaat Java. Click on finish. Then for this Java project, I'll create a package and also name this as Intellipaat Java. Now we have a package ready. It's time to create a class. Now, as you already know that everything in Java has a class. So let's create a class over here. So let's name our class to be demo session, and we'll go ahead and include the public static void main. So this is our main function over here, and it needs to be noted that our entire program or the execution of the program starts from the main function and it ends at the main function. So this is our class which has the main function inside it. So now let's go ahead and implement data types and variables. Variables it is. So this is how we can create a new variable. So first we start off by giving the data type, which is an integer, and we give a name to the variable. So the name which I've given is A, and this is how we can assign a value. So what we're basically doing is we are creating a new variable A of integer type, and we are giving the value of 10 to it. Now similarly, let me create a new variable of floating point. So I'll say double B, and let me give the value of 3.14 to it. So I've created a floating point number with value 3.14. Now let me create a character variable. I'll name it C and I'll give it the value Z. Alright. Now finally let me create a Boolean value. I'll name the variable to be D and let me get the value true to it. Right. So I have created four variables A, B, C, and D. Variable A is of integer type, variable B is of double, variable C is of character type, variable D is of Boolean type. Now let me go ahead and print all of these values. To print, we'll be using the system.out.println. So I'll say system.out.println and I'll print out all of these values one by one. Right. So A, B, C, and D. Let me print these values. Right. This is our integer, this is our floating point number, this is our character, and this is a Boolean variable. Now, since all of these are variables, we can change these values. So variable is nothing but a temporary storage space. So let me go ahead and store something else in this temporary storage space. What I'll do is I'll change the integer value to be 20. I'll change the double value to be minus 12.12. I'll change the character value to be A. Right, you need to put a semicolon after every statement because that indicates the end of the statement. Now I'll change the value of the Boolean variable to be false. Let me end this. Right. Now let me run this. So the variable A, the value has changed from 10 to 20. The variable B, the value has changed from 3.14 to minus 12.12. C has changed from Z to A, and D has changed from true to false. So this was an implementation of variables and data types. Now let's head back to our PPT, shall we? So it's time to look at the different types of operators in Java. You get to see arithmetic operators, relational operators, and logical operators. Now let's work with these in Java. Right, so I'll delete all of these and I'll type operator over here. So what I'll do is I'll create two integer variables, one integer variable A and I'll give it the value of 20 to it, another integer variable of B and I'll give the value of 10. So we'll start off by working with arithmetic operators. Now, so the basic arithmetic operators are addition, subtraction, division, and multiplication. So let's see all of these, shall we? So I'll see in add, that is, we are storing the addition result in add variable. I'll just type out a plus b. Similarly, let me create three more variables: fraction, multiplication, and division. So I'll name this variable as sub, and the operation would be a minus b. Now I'll give div over here, and the operation would be a forward slash b, which is nothing but the division operator. And then I'll type out mul over here, and I'll change the plus symbol to asterisk, which is nothing but multiplication. So I've created four new variables: add, sub, div, and mul. And the add variable would contain the addition result, sub variable would contain the subtraction result, div would contain the division result, and mul would contain the multiplication result. Now let me go ahead and print all of these. So system.out.println add, right? I'll change this to sub. I'll change this to div. I'll change this to mul. Now let me run this. Okay. So the addition result is 30. 20 plus 10 or a plus b is 30. Then 20 minus 10 or a minus b is 10. Then a divided by b or 20 divided by 10 is 2. A cross b or 20 cross 10 is 200. So these were some of the arithmetic operators. Now we'll look at some relational operators. So relational operators help us to find out the relation between two variables. Now I'll take the same two variables a and b and let me find out the relation between them. So the basic relation operators are less than, greater than, less than equal to, greater than equal to. So let's go ahead and find out all of those. So I'll say system dot out dot println and let me find out if the value of a is greater than b. Let me run this. So what I'm doing is I'm giving the greater than operator. So I'm checking if A is greater than B. And this gives me a Boolean result of true. That is, A is definitely greater than B. Or in other words, 20 is definitely greater than 10. Now let me change this to less than operator and let me see what happens now. So this is false, which means 20 is not less than 10 or A is not less than B. Then we also have double equal to operator. So let's check if the value of A is equal to value of B. Let me run this now. This is again false, which means 20 is not equal to 10. Then we have the not equal to operator. So we'll use the exclamation mark and equal to symbol and check if A is equal to B or A is not equal to B. Alright, so which is true? A is not equal to B, or in other words, 20 is not equal to 10. So these were some of the relational operators. Now we'll work with logical operators. So I'll change this to Boolean type and I'll give the value of true to A and false to B. So Boolean B is equal to false. Now, so basically we have three logical operators which are AND, OR, and NOT. Now let me use the AND logical operator. Now the value of AND evaluates to true only if both the operands are true. That is, if A is true and also B is true, only then A and B will evaluate to true. So let's go ahead and check what the result is now. So this is obviously false because one of them is false. Now let me interchange these values. Let me change A to false and B to true and let me see what happens. Let me run this. So again the result is false. Similarly, let me give both of them to be false. Now let me run it. So this is false again. So as I stated earlier, When both the values of A and B are true, only then the result of A and B is evaluated to true, right? So we have the true result over here. So this is how the AND logical operator works. Now we'll go ahead and look at the OR logical operator. Now the OR logical operator evaluates to true when either one of them is true. So let me change this to false. So A is false and B is true. So we'll give the pipe operator. Let me run this now. So this is true. So false or true is true. Now let me change this true. So A is true and let me make B to be false. Let me run this. So this is true again. Now let me make both of them to be true. And this obviously evaluates to true again. Now what I'll do is I'll change A to be false and I'll also change B to be false. Now let me run this. So finally we have a false result. So when either of them is true or both of them is true, then the result is always true. And when both of them are false, only then we get the false result. Right, so this was an implementation of logical operators. Now we'll head back to the PPT again. So next we have control statements. So control statements basically help us in controlling the order of execution in a Java program. And there are two types of control statements, conditional statements and looping statements. So conditional statements help us to control the flow by imposing a condition, such as if it rains, then we'll not play football. Or if you're sick, you'll not eat ice cream. Then we have looping statements, which keep on repeating a certain action, like keep on printing your name 100 times or keep playing the music for the next 1 hour. Right, so let's go ahead and work with these control statements. Let me delete all of this. Let me just put a comment that we are working with control statements over here. So we'll start off with the if conditional statement. Now, what I'll do is I'll create a new variable int and give it the value of 50. I'll use the if control statement and give a condition over here, and I'll say if a is equal to 50, then print out this is para, right? So we obviously get the result, which is this is Sparta. Now let's go ahead and see what is happening over here. So we have created a variable int a is equal to 50. Now inside this if condition, this value is checked first. So if a is double equal to 50, which is obviously true. And since this is true, it enters this comment statement over here and we print this. Right, now let me go ahead and actually change the condition and see what happens. So I'll say if a is greater than 50, then print out this is Sparta. Now obviously we don't get anything over here, and that is because this condition is evaluated to false. When this is evaluated to false, it does not enter the block of statements inside this if condition. So there is a solution to this. We can use the else clause. So let's go ahead and put a else clause to this. Now, if a is greater than 50, print out this. Else, in other terms, if a is not greater than 50, then do something. So we'll say system.out.println and we'll just print we are victorious. Let me run this now. Right. So a's value is 50 and this condition fails. This is evaluated to false, and when this is evaluated to false, it checks the else condition, and since a is obviously not greater than 50, this statement is printed, which is we are victorious. So these were some of the conditional statements. Now let's work with looping statements. So we'll start off with the while loop. So I'll give the value of a to be 1. Now what I want to do is I want to print the numbers from 1 to 99. I'll use the while loop to do that. So I'll say while a is less than 100, and I'll print out all of the values. So system dot out dot print of a, and I'll increment the value of a. So a is equal to a plus 1. So let's understand this. So I have initialized the value of a to be 1. After initializing its value, over here in the loop, this loop keeps on running till a's value becomes 100. So initially a's value is 1. This condition is checked. So 1 is less than 100, which is found out to be true. This enters the loop and we print the value of a, which is 1. And then the value of a is incremented, which then becomes 2. 2 is less than 100. It again enters the loop. So the value of 2 is printed. Again, the value of 2 is incremented, which becomes 3. So this is how we keep on printing the values from 1 to 99. So let us go ahead and run this now. Right, so what we see is the result of the numbers from 1 to 99, and this is how the while loop works. Now let us do the same thing with the for loop. So the for loop takes in all of the three actions inside the double brackets over here. So we'll initialize for I equals 1, I is less than 99, and I plus plus, and all of these three over here, the initialization statement, the condition checking statement, and the incrementation statement, all of them are given over here, and these are separated with a semicolon. Right, so let me give data type to this. For int I is equal to 1, I is less than 99, and I plus plus, and I'll say system dot out dot println, and I'll type out the value of I over here. Now let me run this. So we have the same result over here. So it'll start from 1 and it'll go till 99. So we see 98 over here because when the value of I becomes 99, this condition is evaluated to be false. That is, 99 is not less than 99, and hence it will not enter the loop again. So we get the numbers only starting from 1 till 98. So this is how the while and the for loop work. Right now, let us head back. Now we'll look at arrays. We already know that variables are temporary storage spaces which only store one value at a time. Now, what if I need to store multiple values? Let's say I need to store names of 100 students. Now, creating 100 variables for this purpose would be a tedious task. So, this is where an array comes in. Arrays help in storing a set of homogeneous elements. Like over here, we have one array comprising of a homogeneous collection of fruits. Similarly, we have another array comprising of a homogeneous collection of only birds. So let's go ahead and implement arrays in Java. Let's head back to Eclipse. Now let me delete all of this. Right, so this is how we can create arrays. So I'll create an integer array. So I'll give the data type, then I'll state the variable's name, and I'll give an opening brace and a closing brace, and I'll say new int, and I'll give the number of elements over here. So let's say I want 20 integer elements inside this array. So let's understand this again. So this is the syntax of creating an array. So the data type, the variable name, open brace and close brace. So till here, this is the same to declare a variable. So this is where the declaration of an array changes. Int a bracket open bracket close equals, and we allocate the memory to this. So new operator is used to allocate the memory, and we say new int of 20 elements, or the size of this array is of 20. Right, so we have created an array. Now it's time to fill up this array with some elements. So to do that, we'll again use the for loop, which we've learned earlier. So I'll say for int I equals 0. Now it needs to be noted that the index of an array starts with 0. So over here, these 20 elements, so the first element will be stored in index 0 and the last element will be stored in index 19. So this loop will go from 0 till 19. And then I'll increment this. Now let me fill up this array with values. So what I'll do is I'll say a of bracket open I bracket close equals I. So what this does is, so this enters the loop and initially i's value is 0, which is less than 20. Then it enters inside the loop. So a of I, or in other words, a of 0 equals 0. So the 0th index holds the value 0. And again, the value of I is incremented. Now the value of I is 1. So a of 1 or the index 1 contains value 1. Similarly, index 2 contains value 2, index 3 contains value 3, and this goes on till the 19th element. Now to print the value of this array, let's create another for loop over here. And this for loop goes from 0 to 19 as well. And let me print out the values of this. So I'll say system dot out dot println and a of I. So starting from the 0th index to the 19th index, this will keep on incrementing the values. Now let me run this. Right, so this is our array, which comprises of values from 0 to 19. So this is the 0th index of the array, which contains the value 0. This is the 10th index of the array, which contains the value 10. This is the 19th index of the array, which contains the value 19. Right. So this is how we can create arrays. Let's understand the concept of classes in Java. So simply put, classes provide a blueprint to implement real-world entities. A class in general has data and functions. And this data is nothing but the features of an object, and functions are basically the actions performed by the object. So let's take a bird. It'll have some sort of features associated with it, such as color, height, and weight. And along with these features, a bird can also perform certain actions, such as it can fly, it can sit, and it can eat. Now, when you combine these features and functions together, you get a general template to describe a bird, and that is nothing but your class. So this is all about class. Now let's look at objects. So objects are instances of a class. That is, a class gives a general template and objects are specific entities of that template. So over here, the class bird is a general template which can have specific instances like eagle, parrot, and hummingbird. And all of these three instances have the features and functions associated with the bird. Now we'll go ahead and implement the concept of class in Java. Now we already know that everything in Java is composed of classes since it is an object-oriented programming language. So let's go ahead and create another class inside this package. So I'll create a new class. Now let me name it to be Tangle. And again, inside this package, we can only have one class with the main function. So I'm reiterating again, we cannot have multiple classes with the main function. So there can be only one class with the main function. And this is where the entire execution will start and end. So we have a new class, which is of public type. Now, there are two types of modifiers in a class which can be public and private. So, if the members in the class are public, then they can be accessed from outside the class. But if the members in a class are private, then they can be accessed from only within the class. And by default, all members of a class are private. So, let me create some private members inside this class rectangle. So let me give the length and width of this rectangle. So I'll say int length equals 20. And let me also create the breadth of this rectangle and I'll give the value of 10. And it needs to be noted that both of these values are private. Now we'll create a public function. Every function has a return type associated with it. So I'll say public int and get area. So this is how we create a function over here. So we have the return type over here, we have the access modifier, and we have the name of the function. And let us give something inside this function. Now I'd want to find out the area of this rectangle. So that is nothing but length into breadth. So I'll create a new variable to store the result of the area. I'll type out length into breadth. Right. So now what we see is this function is a part of this class, and also these integer members are part of this class. And that is why this function can directly access these length and breadth values. But if this function was not part of the class, then we cannot access the length and breadth values directly from the function. Right. So now we've got the area. Now it's time to return the result. So I'll say return of area. Similarly, we'll create another function and name it to be get perimeter, and I'll create int peri or variable peri to store the result. So perimeter can be found out by this formula over here, 2 into length plus breadth. So length plus breadth. Now let me return this. So return of peri. Right, so this is our rectangle class over here, which contains two private members, which are the length and breadth of the rectangle. Then we have created two public functions, which are get area and get perimeter. Now this will return the value of the area, and this will return the value of the perimeter. Now we'll go ahead and create an instance of this rectangle class. So let's go ahead and do that. So let me just change this to be class and object. So let's create an object of the rectangle class inside this main function. So I'll say rectangle, I'll give the name of the class, and then I'll create an object. I'll give the name of this instance object to be rect1, and I'll say new of rectangle. Right, so it seems like I've given the name of the class to be wrong over here. So let me change this to be rectanlge, and also do that over here. Right, so we have created the object rect1. Now let's go ahead and call these two functions, which are get area and get perimeter, with the help of this object. So I'll say system.out.println, and using this object I'll call the get area function. Similarly, using the rect1 object, I'll also call the get perimeter function. So what I've done is I've created a new object of the rectangle class, and since these functions are part of this rectangle class, we can call them only with an object of this rectangle class. So this is the rect1 object, and I'm calling the get area and get perimeter functions. Let me run this now. Right. So this is the area of the rectangle, and this is the perimeter of the rectangle. So 10 cross 20 is 200, and 2 into L plus B, or 2 into 30 is 60. So this is how we can get the area and perimeter of the rectangle. Right, and this is an implementation of class. And this also brings us to the end of this video. So let's have a brief recap of what we went through. So we started off by understanding what exactly is Java, and then we looked at the execution flow in Java. Then we looked at some data types and variables and implemented them in Java, following which we looked at the necessity of control statements and again had a practical demo for control statements. Finally, we looked at the concept of arrays and classes and implement both of them in Java. Right. So if you have any queries, feel free to contact us.
Thank you for watching our video. Do like and share it. If you have any questions, Comment below and we'll respond to them as soon as possible. Also, do subscribe to Intellipaat channel so that you can keep yourself updated on the latest technologies. You can also go through other related videos in our playlist. And for more information, visit our website. Keep learning, keep improving.